For us, the elected members, to decide to protect these historic buildings tonight would be, quote, inappropriate and unlawful. Now, we would contend that this is a patently false claim, and we're glad that the planners and the executive have followed up now tonight on the motions passed by the Council, the first one as long ago as 2015, and presented these reports and recommendations. As I said, long overdue as they are, but they are very welcome. So I would urge full support and urge all councillors to back these reports and recommendations. I think they mark a significant step forward in the efforts to save this historic quarter of our city and to rejuvenate and revive it. I would also like to note, before I finish, that An Bord Pleanála has refused an oral hearing on the appeals on the planning applications already granted, which really is deplorable. This is an issue that is of huge public interest. Has been addressed many times on this council, and it certainly requires oral hearings.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Councillor Donacooney, just a reminder now, it's 90 seconds. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And yeah, I really do welcome these reports. You know, it's really good to see that we now recognise that there are buildings that are significant and worthy to be protected for future generations. And I and others that have been campaigning for this for many years see this as a very historical and significant day. And I'd like to thank the planners for putting this before us. I don't think it's gone all of the way, but it's gone very, very significant. We started off where we were hopeful of saving one in the terrace, and we're now at this stage. And I think even particularly number 10, when I think of my relative Elizabeth O'Farrell, which unfortunately she's not mentioned in the reports, and I think her actual record was very, very clear, because it was only 1 year in April 1917 when she talks about how she nearly died outside number 10 before they broke in from Henry Place there. She was helped up by a Sean McGarry into number 10, and how James Connolly was being tended, and she had tended to the wounded that night and set up a nurse's station, and how they burrowed through the terrace that evening, and how the Pearce brothers spent their last nights together sleeping up above number 10. And at one stage we were going to knock down number 10. And, you know, thank God for the people that campaigned that we're not doing that now. And it's a significant, sorry for getting emotional, but it's a significant night.
Thank you very much. Councillor John Lyons, now you're going to speak on your motion.
I will, I can take that in.
I'll give you 2 minutes then to speak on that.
Thanks, Chair. And look, I do think this is an incredibly emotive issue, as Councillor Cooney has just shown, and there have been decades of concerned citizens, relatives, others who have fought tooth and nail many times, being ignored and felt like they were in the wilderness in terms of trying to protect one of the most important historical site in 20th century Irish history. And sometimes you have to step back and look at it and go, why are we up against this? The motion that is the substance of these reports was submitted in the summer of 2015. I know before, in 2011, there was a motion, a similar type of motion that was put forward. And it seems to my mind, and it is very welcome that we have 10, 20, 21 in particular, and Henry Place 4 to 8 protected. But to my mind, there's a serious issue in terms of the delay in getting to this point, and these buildings hopefully being added to the RPS. And to my mind, there's been a deliberate delay at the behest of two different developers, private market forces, who have, I think, delayed access to the buildings. They frustrated what should have been, in 2015, a democratic mandate giving to the officials, and this process should have been completed probably 2016, 2017. And I think it was done in such a way so as to get to this point where the current owner can, threaten or insinuate that somehow something that we're doing here, protecting our urban heritage and history is somehow not on. And what are we doing? Like, do we want just more H&M's, Next and Starbucks? You know, have your Starbucks but forget the Starry Plough. Is that what we're doing here? All we've ever tried to do is protect what is an incredibly important site. One thing, and I will take this motion now, motion 12 from the Planning and Urban Forum SPC, was that actually number 18, according to a report in 2011 from Shaftesbury that was part of an application Chartered Lands, does note that there is 19th century fabric to the front of number 18, and I think that is that would warrant another look at number 18 being included into the list of protected structures. But look, it is an important day. There is, I think, many more important days ahead to protect the entire terrace, because as has been noted before, and I'll finish on this, and particularly by Grania Shaftesbury, the whole terrace tells a story. The lines, the streetscape is extant, and we should try to keep it. It actually is a moment in time that we can actually cherish and hold, not only in the present, but for future generations.
Thanks you very much, Councillor. Councillor Pat McCartan.
Thank you,
You have
Lord
90 seconds, okay?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, I've listened to the contributions of my fellow councillors. I do realise this is a reserved function, that we will be voting on it here tonight. I do want to ask the manager, though, what are the implications for the redevelopment of this part of the inner city of Dublin, given it's 28 years ago to the month that the Carlton Cinema closed down, and we're now waiting 28 years and there has still been no redevelopment on the site. I'd like to get the opinion of the law agent as well before I vote on this, because I am concerned about the implications of a legal challenge to this, based on the fact that on board Pleanála say there's a backlog and they could not adjudicate on this matter. And what happens, manager, or to the, if I ask the law agent, if on board Pleanála give the go-ahead to this particular proposal? So there's a lot of things. We've debated this over, I think, 3 different city councils, and the proposals there for hotels, residence, office, retail. It was all going to be a great revitalisation of this part of the city. So I'm just concerned that by doing what we're doing here tonight could impact on that. And I'd like answers to those questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Joe Costello.
Thanks very much, Lord Mayor. Well, look, I welcome these 6 proposals to be added to the buildings, to be added to the list of protected structures. These were the 6 that the Central Area Committee agreed on, and thanks to Councillor Lyons who put forward his motion, and Councillor McDonagh and some of the others who put forward their motion in relation to the protected, putting some of these buildings on the protected list. We haven't completed our business. We'll be looking at some other buildings as well, but these were the 6 that we agreed on. So these have gone forward today, and in the future we'll be looking at some others. But also, let us not remember that this goes back a long time. I put the first motion down to the City Council in the 90s when Dermot Lacey was Lord Mayor. The Labour Party organised a march from Moore Street to City Hall to try and get the area of Moore Street to get it a national monument. We were successful in getting the GPO and 14 to 17 Moore Street declared national monuments. That was where the first work was done, and that was very substantial. And there's been a lot of work done since that. So my question is, if in fact now we have numbers 10, 12, 13, there's only 11 missing there, what is the situation in relation to getting these listed structures now being also part of the National Monument for 14 to 17 Moore Street?
Thank you very much.
And number 18 is included too.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll ask the manager to come in now.
Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you, Chair. I'll answer some of the questions, not in any particular order. But I think the first point to make is to thank the councillors for their appreciation of the importance of this area. In answer to the question about what is the future now, the buildings that you are considering putting on the RPS tonight will be protected for future generations. They will contribute to the rejuvenation of the whole of the Moore Street area. And as you know, Moore Street backs out onto O'Connell Street, and O'Connell Street has been in the news lately. So it will help with the rejuvenation of O'Connell Street, which includes the new metro station, which will come on stream in a few years. Then O'Connell Street, and leading north from there, leads on to the Parnell Street Library and that quarter. So the making of the adding these buildings to the record of protected structures contributes, in my opinion, significantly to the rejuvenation of the whole of this quarter of the town. With regard to the question about what the implications are going forward, the development of this area, including the buildings that are not considered to be of special interest sufficient to make them protected structures, but they will be rejuvenated and as part of the, if approval is given by the Board Penala. And overall, there will be a lot of new employment in the area, in retail and the commercial sector. As well as the remaking of the streets, Moore Lane in particular and Henry Place, to make them safer places where people come and go and contribute to the vibrancy of that part of the city. With regard to Councillor McCartney's point on the what happens if Bord Pleanála give planning permission, and Bord Pleanála now must have regard. Sorry, well, I'm jumping the gun here. If you as councillors approve these additions to the RPS today, and Bord Pleanála must have take that RPS status into account in their assessment of the three planning applications in front of them, and indeed any other applications come forward as well. With regard, I have spoken to the law agent together with Richard Shakespeare here today, and the view of the law agent is that the amendments now proposed following the consultation period did not form part of the proposed protected structures agreed by the Chief Executive and noted by the Area Committee, with the meaning of sections 54 to 55 of the Plan Development Act. As such, the suggested amendments are ultra-vires and go beyond the powers of the City Council, as they were not notified to the owners and members of the public as is required under the Act. In the law agent's view, there is a high risk of a legal challenge should the members proceed. But as the feeling I'm getting tonight is that the members are accepting of the Chief Executive's recommendation following the public consultation period. With regard to Councillor Costello's view, but other buildings, yes, there were 6 other buildings, but they were carefully considered by our experts in the conservation section, and they were considered not to have the special merit that needs to put them on the record of protected structures. With regard to Councillor Lyon's view or about number 18 and the Shaftry report, the conservation section did take into account all the published reports in relation to number 18, including that of Shaftry and including those of Professor Dooley, who give an input to the MSAG report that went to the Minister. And the overall view is that number 18 was a vacant site in 1916. Indeed, there was evidence from the rebels themselves that they crossed vacant ground to go from one building to another. I know a dangerous act at the time because it was vacant ground. There may well be vestiges of the original building to the front, but the considered view of all the experts is that that's not sufficient to make the overall site, to add the overall site to the record of protected structures. I think that's most of the matters covered.
Okay.
I did, Lord Mayor, ask about the National Monument.
Because the government have indicated that 14 to 17 is the national monument. If councillors wish, we can write to the Minister again, ask him, is he willing to consider the extra 6 buildings? We can do that if you wish.
I think that would be very appropriate, actually, under the circumstance.
Yeah, I propose that we do that. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor John Lyons, do you want to come back in on the
Yeah,
motion?
but just a point of information, and I thank John for his response there. The problem with that Shaftesbury report, and it was part of the ministerial consent application in 2011, I've been trying to get a copy of that from the department with no luck to date. But it's in that report, John, where it does say that whilst most of number 18 was in ruins, there was a portion of the first floor facade which was of 19th century vintage. So that report actually does confirm, and I think perhaps provides a justification as to why number 18 could be included in the list of protected structures. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor McCartan, do you still need the law agent to come in, or are you satisfied with the reply?
Well, I'm going to put it on the record that the law agent said that it's most likely there will be a legal challenge. That's my interpretation.
No, just to be clear, she said there was a high risk of a legal challenge.
Lord Mayor, if I could clarify.
Yeah, you can clarify now. Yeah, thank you.
There'd be a high risk of a legal challenge if the members were to adopt the amendment that's proposed by the Sinn Féin group. But in terms of the process and the report that's before you, I think it's legally sound. I think the members are entitled to put the structures on the record of protected structures. While there is a risk that somebody could take a legal challenge, I think that will be robustly defended by the City Council, and I don't agree with the legal submissions in the report made by the developer.